Welcome to US Rugby Happy Hour Live. Interviews with the biggest names in American rugby.
The New England Free Jacks, Major League Rugby champions. One-on-one to score.
Here are your hosts, Phil Baker and that other guy.
Hey everybody, welcome to US Rugby Happy Hour Live. As you can see, there's only one person on screen. That's me, John Patrick. Unfortunately, Bill Baker cannot make it for this episode. Some personal stuff he had to deal with, nothing bad, but a tree fell down on his property, so he's going to get a chainsaw out and try and cut it up. So this should be funny to make for some good content. So send a message to Bill if you want some firewood. He'll ship it out to you. But anyway, really excited for tonight's episode. We've got Anthem Rugby Carolina General Manager Mark Carney on to catch up on kind of Anthem ahead of the 2026 MLR season, talk men's Eagles, and just kind of get into it. Before I bring in Mark, listeners, please follow, like, subscribe to the show. Feel free to leave comments. Follow us on social media at Eagles Overseas and Rugby Morning. So I'm now going to bring on Mark. Now, Mark, here we go. Bill usually handles the behind-the-scenes stuff, so I think I did this correctly, but I can see you on screen. Mark, how you doing?
I'm great, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. We've been meaning to have you on for a while now. Very excited about everything that's going on with Anthem over the last couple of seasons and looking ahead to 2026. But let's start there. Just how busy have you been? What's the last couple of weeks been like for you and the organization?
It's been another fun MLR off season. No rest for the weary. But it's been challenging. Certainly, it's been a couple of months of opportunity and some unrest. You know, we're obviously sad that we've lost as many teams as we have, but I think this gives us an opportunity, us as a franchise as well as the league, to sort of hit the reset button, kind of tweak some things, change some things, and see what we can do to put a better product on the field, both performance-wise as well as commercially and viewership-wise. So, looking forward to another good MLR season, and I'm just glad that we have one.
Yeah, I think reset button is the right way to put it, and certainly we'll get into your background because you've got a unique experience working across multiple teams in Major League Rugby, from breaking things down to building things up. So a unique perspective on all of this. You mentioned a very busy offseason from Anthem. We'll run through a couple of these names. There's certainly a number of awesome re-signings here, right? And there's a theme here, right? Sam Gala, Eric Storty, Alex Mon, Makeen Ali Khan, all capped men's Eagles, all younger but maybe veteran tested, So it seems like let's start there. Let's talk about a few of those guys. First of all, how is Sam doing? We missed him, in the international period here in November. He got hurt, I think, at the beginning of the summer. But how is Sam doing?
Yeah, Sam's doing well. Rehab's going well. Fully on track to be back for preseason.
Awesome. Makeen, we had Makeen on a few months ago, and we were chatting with him about how he quote unquote got discovered, and there was I think he had some Canadian eligibility too, and we were chatting with him. We were like, how did Canada miss out on you? And he was like, they didn't even know I was eligible. For that, it's a very funny clip on this episode a couple of months back. You'll have to go and check that out. But as your re-signings have started to come in, talk a little bit about the team's approach. I can obviously bring in Eric and bring in Alex and filling out certain spots. As you're building out the roster, were there certain areas that you and your staff wanted to focus on?
Yeah, I mean, I think building out the roster this year, again, like I mentioned, with all these teams dropping, and you heard a similar thing from Will Maggie when you had him on a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. It gave all of us an opportunity to really go to market and bolster squad with tested, seasoned players. And there was obviously a lot of fully capped US Eagles on the market. And our mission at Anthem is obviously to continue to promote and develop USA talent, both bringing guys up who are on the younger end and developing them and hoping to achieve their full potential, as well as bringing in some more experienced Eagles potential Eagles guys that are sort of in the pipeline, haven't necessarily had a shot, but we see potential for them to be able to take that step if they get some more playing time. So our squad this year is certainly going to be still a bit of a youth flavor, where that's sort of our remit, and has been for the first few seasons. But certainly we were planning to sort of evolve our squad and the way that we recruited and the makeup of the squad going into 26 anyways, before we knew that there was going to be all these drastic changes and teams dropping out. So while the situation and the circumstances are not ideal for everyone, it's certainly given us the ability to give some quality players a good home, and continue their journey as we look to continue to move forward with Eagles towards World Cup 27.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the evolution, right? So a couple of players that you've signed, Malachi Isdale, right? He's a captain sevens, very familiar with 15s, played with Seattle last year. I think his very first touch in MLR last season was there was about 2 or 3 minutes left. Seattle was playing, I think it was New England. He touched the ball, made a cut, quick move, scored a try. And it was that kind of explosiveness, that playmaking that he translated from the sevens to the 15s. It's like, yeah, you can see why Isdale is in the setup. What did you guys see in Malachi?
I mean, Malachi has been a seasoned operator. Like you mentioned, he's been on the seventh circuit for years. And certainly to play on the seventh circuit, you have to come with some X factor. And he translates that over to the 15s field. He has X factor for days. You get him the ball in space. Even when he's marked, he can make guys miss. He's powerful. He's a big ball carrier. He's good in the air. Like that, those skill sets come over from sevens. And when you're playing on the wing, especially when he's looking to transition into the 15s Eagles, having that ability to be good in the air, whether it's on the wing, at fullback, in the midfield, like that's a critical skill set that we need more of, and he's definitely gonna factor into a lot of our plans this coming season. We're looking forward to hopefully getting the ball in his hands more often, getting him some more minutes so he can take that step.
Yeah, it's a very interesting backline that's coming together, right? And it also certainly starts with the 10. So let's go there. You guys were able to, you mentioned Will McGee, you were able to maybe steal Luke Carney from Chicago. Certainly, we all know how important the fly half position is. If you look across MLR, just the talented operators from the kicking, the pass, and also kicking off the tee. And obviously then as that runs up to the men's Eagles. So bringing in Luke Carney now, where do you see his development, kind of his role in leading the attack for Anthem?
Yeah, we're fortunate enough to have been able to sign Luke and Tom Pittman as well. So we've got some 10-12 combinations there. Both can comfortably play 10. Tom can play 12. Carts can play 15. And again, another similar theme to what Will was saying. A primary goal of ours when we're recruiting players is to make sure that we had guys that are versatile, that can cover multiple positions. We're running smaller squads. There's going to be a lot of squad rotation to just continue to make sure that we're keeping guys healthy and fresh with smaller squads. So the versatility is incredibly important. But Luke brings years of experience. He's up there in caps for the Eagles. He understands how to run a show at 10. So his leadership and his experience is certainly going to help us play the way that we want to play. Really drive our forwards and backs around the field. The communication piece is critical in the back line there. So combining him with Tom or Junior and Carl and Ish, and we've got well, I just spoiled a couple of re-signings, but those two guys are coming back, and we've got another 9 coming in that we're excited about as well. But yeah, I think having guys like that who have proven themselves both domestically and at the international level is critical for us to be able to continue the evolution of not just Anthem, but also like the combinations that you'll see in the Eagles moving forward as well.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned there's a couple more signings. Did I skip over Seth Smith?
Oh, you dropped it in. We haven't announced him yet, but Sethy is coming in, and no, we're looking forward to being able to bring Seth in and continue his development. Certainly over the last couple of years in Houston, he's still a young guy, 2021. He's got a ton of upside. We're excited about his development and hope that, over the course of the next year or two, he can really take that next step. He's been in the extended player squad with the Eagles, and there are a couple of hookers there that are somewhat aging out. The young crop is coming through, and certainly he's a big part of that younger group coming through. And yeah, looking forward to seeing what he's able to do with us this season.
Well, a crafty pickup. I think that might have been a spoiler, but I think you were going to announce that anyway. I kind of threw the name out because I feel like I saw Smith linked somewhere, but I think it's now official. Seth Smith officially with Anthem. Just tell him not to cut his hair. He's got to keep the long hair. You know what I mean? Like
Viking look is good.
Exactly. You got to keep that look. It's intimidating out there. And like you said, it's hard to believe that Seth is still only 20, 21 years old, right? The future that he has, and now being locked in with Anthem and under the veteran leadership there. Excited to see what his development looks like over the next couple of years, because he's a guy that jumped right from high school, right? Like that pathway usually is like high school. Okay, see if you can get to a top program in college rugby, get a few years there, get noticed, go through the MLR draft, and get picked up by a squad, or figure out the USA Rugby pathway. And maybe this is a good opportunity to kind of talk a little bit about the draft and Anthem's approach the past couple of seasons. So in the 2025 draft, most recently, y'all selected UCLA lock Will Sherman. Big body. Certainly the size. I think the locks are going these days, 6'5", 6'6", and above, guys that can move around, a lot of energy. I'm probably saying all the attributes you're about to say, but what did you all see in Will Sherman? And was it kind of a no-doubter for you guys with that number 1 overall pick?
Yeah, so Will was a guy that I knew of, having been in LA previously, and he had been playing for UCLA last couple of years. Hadn't really stepped up to the forefront when I was in LA, but certainly this past season took a massive step. And then when they had the college rugby essentially all-star game here in Charlotte, they were in camp for a week prior to that game, and I got to just go and observe and just watch his approach and his demeanor. His leadership is often hard to find in collegiate players that are coming out of the college system here. He's already like well ahead of the curve on that front. But certainly he's, like you said, he's a big body. He's got a massive motor. Like he just goes and goes and goes. He'll happily play 80 minutes and there's not a lot of drop off. He's also versatile. Like we see him also being able to cover 6 as well. So again, going back to that versatility piece, he fills a couple of different roles. But yeah, I think he's gonna factor into a lot of match day squads this year, and we're gonna blood him early because we think he has the potential to really step up and put his name in consideration for an extended player squad next year as well.
So that's interesting, right? And I want to go deeper into this just a little bit, talking about college rugby and, the draft process. I guess we'll get into more of your background here in a second with other teams, but given the kind of the research that y'all do and scouting players, pulling them up from the college scenes, how would you rate maybe the level of rugby in college, say over the past couple of years, and maybe rephrase it? Are guys coming into the league more ready to earn significant minutes on an MLR squad?
I certainly think that the level of collegiate rugby has improved vastly over the last 5 to 10 years. And I've I've been fortunate enough to sort of be through or being included in that pathway. I was executive director at Rugby NorCal for 3 or 4 years, and it's nice to see a lot of those players that I was involved with that came up through the youth and high school ranks in NorCal have transitioned into MLR. You know, the likes of Christian Dyer, CC Mahoney, Mika Cruze, Tavite Lepetti, Ale Lepetti. There's a whole bunch of Cali boys that I got to see develop, and the youth side of things, and then transition into their college careers, and then make the jump to MLR, and they've all been very successful. So definitely the collegiate programs are becoming more professional. You know, they have similar training weeks and pedagogy to what an MLR team runs and operates, and there's more schools offering financial assistance, scholarships, and the more that happens, the better the quality, and certainly the support staff and the coaching that they're getting in colleges. That's seen a massive increase. So that's why you're seeing the ability for these guys to come out in an MLR draft, or even get picked up as free agents and actually step on the field and be able to compete. I think that there's still a bit of work to do. I think on average, if you look at the last few MLR drafts, a lot of the first round picks get minutes, but the second and third round picks, they fill rosters out, but they don't always get a shot. And certainly the last couple of years with Anthem, that's sort of been our purpose, our remit. Like, let's bring in these young guys. Let's pull some guys off of other rosters that aren't going to get minutes. Let's loan them. Let's put them on the field and see what happens. Again, our process and our philosophies have sort of evolved a little bit going into 26, but it's still a big part of what we're about and what we're trying to accomplish with Anthem.
Yeah, so talking about the evolution, right? And you mentioned the changes in the off season, right? And unfortunately, a couple more teams drop in, so it looks like we're moving forward with 6 MLR teams. The reduction in the foreign player slot, which some people were upset about, particularly if you're a Canadian rugby fan. There's obviously still Canadians in the league, and we're grateful that they're a part of the league. But with the real focus for the next couple of years, really in that run up to beyond 27 and 31, is making sure that more domestic players are getting meaningful minutes, right, in Major League Rugby, and for fans here in the U.S. to rally behind and cheer on some of these next up and coming players. I guess I want to talk a little bit about, you said the evolution of Anthem. Kind of, what are the goals for this year? Can you touch on that, and just how you had to maneuver a little bit differently given those changes in player eligibility and all those things?
Yeah, I mean, for us, I don't think it affected us as much, right? Because we are domestic focused. We always have been. That's been our purpose and our remit, and it continues to be. Over the first couple of years, we had a number of internationals that we brought in that, they were targeted for a particular reason. They had some leadership, they had some mentorship capabilities, and that was why they were brought in. And obviously, this is my first year actually building a roster for Anthem. I inherited the roster from last season, because I started in March when Brandon went and took the director of rugby role at MLR. But I think we're continuing the evolution of our playing style and philosophy, and certainly we needed to fill out the roster with guys that allow us to play the way that we want to play. But yeah, it's a massive opportunity for us this year. I think our ultimate goal. Yes, we are winless in 2 years. There's no hiding that, and it's been a challenge. But certainly the guys in the locker room, and I think it speaks to those players that are returning, that they bought into what we're doing. I had some great conversations with some of our senior players over the off season, and just reassuring them that things are moving forward, that we're going to be doing things a little bit differently, and certainly we got the buy-in, and the majority of our senior players are coming back. And we actually had our first team call last night. We're starting early, our roster set, and we're trying to get the guys connected early and build that culture and the camaraderie and getting the or allowing the guys the ability to really get to know each other off the field before they even get here, boots on the ground in Charlotte, in March, whenever we actually assemble. So, yeah, really looking forward to this season. I think, our goal this year is playoffs. And I think we've been able to put a roster together that will allow us to do that. First win will come hopefully nice and early in the season, and we'll just continue to build from there.
Awesome. Yeah, and that's great. I mean, I think that's everyone is behind the mission of Anthem, and it's good to hear the buy-in from the players that are returning. Right, I think that sets the tone for how the season is going to go. If you can, maybe reveal to us or give us a glimpse of maybe what we'll see a little bit differently from Anthem on the field in terms of maybe playing style. Is there will it maybe mirror or try and reflect what's happening on the senior squad for the men's Eagles?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's certainly a lot of tie-in to the national team, both with staff and philosophy. I work closely with Scott Lawrence, and when we're building this squad out, obviously, ultimately, players make their own decisions about where they want to go, where they see their future, how a particular city or team affects their ability to live and their family. And to another point that Will brought up is, this is a hard time. It's been a really tough off season for a lot of players. So certainly we've tried to be as empathetic as we can be with players through the recruiting process. But the end goal is to try and have as many Eagles or EPS squad members on our team as possible, so they can continue to build around the culture that they get from the national team, the connections that they're building on the field and off the field, and then certainly have that translate over to Anthem and the way that we play. But Anthem is its own entity. We have our own identity, and certainly, from a coaching standpoint, I'm not going to talk too much to that because that's not my forte. That's not my remit. But Coach Kuka, Augustine Cavalieri, he's a brilliant coach, and he really does get the most out of the players. Players love playing for him. Like I'm sure if you talk to Maka or Sam, who they came over from Dallas with him, they die for him on the field. So that's an important part to this. And now Augustine's heavily involved with the Eagles now. He's getting a lot of FaceTime and one-on-one time with some of the new players that we're bringing in as well. And I think that will be reflective of the way that we play. And certainly, he is a forwards coach. He is a defense coach, and I think we'll evolve our game a little bit to play to our strengths based on the squad that we've assembled. So we won't be one dimensional. We're not going to just be flinging the ball around anymore because why not? There's going to be structure. There's going to be purpose, but we're going to try and play a fun and expansive brand of rugby as well.
All right. Well, when the season schedule comes out, and I'm hearing it's coming out pretty soon, we're going to circle week one. Whoever that week one opponent is, get ready. Certainly, it's going to be exciting and more positive news. Mark, I wanted to change gears a little bit here and touch on a little bit of your background, your experience in rugby, because as I mentioned up top, you've been involved with, I believe, 3 MLR teams now, right? So you started with rugby ATL, joined LA, kicked it around there for a bit, then you flew back to the East Coast. Meanwhile, I'm now on the West Coast. We've kind of just traded spaces there. Talk to me about how you got involved. Let's start when you first got involved in Major League Rugby, Rugby ATL. How did you get involved there, and what was that experience like, given that they had to shut things down and then fly on over to LA?
Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate enough, I guess, right place, right time. There was a job posting for the team manager role at Rugby ATL. I'd rubbed shoulders with Scott a little bit at that point, or prior to that point, so he sort of knew of me, and I'd worked closely with Paul Santinelli, who was also involved with Rugby ATL. And so it was a good fit, right place, right time. Made the transition out there in October 21, and then things changed pretty drastically. Obviously with Marcus's passing, that threw a pretty big wrench into sort of the bigger picture plans that we had for Rugby ATL. So there was obviously some change that happened there, and then we had two good seasons there, and unfortunately we just couldn't find an investor, a buyer that wanted to keep us in ATL. So we had to close up shop and transition and move a franchise from the East Coast to the West Coast, which that was a massive challenge, and a massive lift. But certainly, I think that's an experience for me that not many GMs have had the ability to pack up and move a franchise. So yeah, massive challenge, but it was a welcome one, and I was just glad that we were able to continue going, albeit in a new city, new environment, but still be able to give guys homes. And then obviously, our roster changed pretty drastically. A lot of the guys decided that, hey, if we're not staying in Atlanta, I'm going to test the waters elsewhere, and that's the nature of the sports business. So, yeah, transitioned out to LA. Was a GM in LA for the first season there. And then, yeah, I think was just writing was on the wall that it just wasn't necessarily sustainable for me. I had a fiance at that point back in Atlanta, and I think it was probably the right time for me to bow out. I thought I was done with MLR at that stage. Was actively looking for a job for about 6 months, and then Scott called me up, was like, "I need you to come to Anthem." And I was like, all right, let's do it. So back in the throes of it, and like I said, sort of came in once the season had already started. Ran through last season. There was a lot of changes and a lot of things that we needed to sort of get right. And some things panned out last year. Certainly, I think even though we didn't necessarily get the win on the field, our performances at certain points of last season, like you look at both of those games against Houston, the home game against Miami. I mean, we were in those, just couldn't close it out, and that sort of builds into our philosophy for recruitment. Is we realize that we just need a bit more depth of talent to get the impact off the bench, to have a stronger squad in general. So that's been a big focus point for us, and I think that the roster that we've assembled is going to allow us to close out games and certainly get a number of wins this year.
Yeah. Now you've seen rugby in Atlanta, you've seen it in Charlotte, you've seen it in Los Angeles. I guess from like your point of view, if you can, and you were part of Rugby NorCal, just what are you seeing from these other communities in terms of just like the rugby participation over the years? Are you seeing more youth get involved? Is there more awareness about it? Given that you've kind of been all over the country, so to speak, and seen rugby from different points of view, what are you seeing from a growth point of view? Because I've seen it from DC and LA now a little bit more, but I'm curious to hear your point of view on it.
Yeah, I mean, look, rugby is a sport that I think when kids at a younger age pick up a ball for the first time and they realize that everyone gets an opportunity to run with the ball, everyone gets an opportunity to defend, there's special teams, if you will, with a kicking game, there's strategy, there's community. Like once these kids try it, they do fall in love with it, and the parents become evangelists for it as well, because they see how much fun their kids are having, but they're also having a good time with the rugby community and the culture that the sport has in general. So certainly there's been an uptick in participation. There's an uptick in interest, and it's not just in very specific markets anymore. I mean, for the longest time, California, New York, Texas, like New England, the Northeast in general, a little bit in the Midwest, some in the Pacific Northwest. They were the hubs, and that's where the majority of youth players hailed from. And now I think you're seeing across the country smaller markets, Indianapolis, Miami, Charlotte, Atlanta, cities across the country are seeing a big uptick in participation and interest again. I think COVID really sort of did us all dirty. It definitely took the participation numbers down, and the youth and high school side of things have had to rebuild. But the USA Youth and High School Rugby is doing a fantastic job in pushing the message, making sure that it's a safe and fun place for kids of all ages to play. The Imagine Rugby curriculum and initiative that is happening throughout the country now, and certainly MLR teams, including ourselves, are really buying into that and working hard. In fact, just yesterday we had an event at a local middle school where we were running an Imagine Rugby clinic for basically an all-day Imagine Rugby clinic covering all of the classes in a local middle school. So you're going to continue to see more of that. And yeah, I think that rugby is definitely on the up in the States. If we can just find a way to make it more mainstream and not just so club oriented, like we got to find a way to get the schools to buy into it, not just from running it as a PE curriculum where maybe the kids play it once a month as part of PE, but actually have dedicated programs that are sort of based and named after the school. And I think that's the trend that we need to get to in order to continue to facilitate the growth that we all want to see. So by the time we're hosting in 2031 and 2033, we've got 1 million kids playing rugby actively and engaging, not just on the field, but engaging in rugby activities and international matches, MLR, college. Like, let's be, I guess, very pragmatic about the way that we continue to develop and evolve the game here. But yeah, I see nothing but positives at the moment from all levels throughout the game.
Yeah, there's seems to be some good positive momentum coming, which is great, and you love to see there. A couple questions here before we let you go, Mark. Here, you mentioned Charlotte, right? So Charlotte's kind of become like this interesting hub of USA Rugby activity, obviously because of Anthem and USA Rugby and everything that's going on there. Hosted a couple of international matches. Can we anticipate there being some more big matches based in the Charlotte area over the next few years?
I certainly hope so. I know, like Patrick Stack, who's our team president, is actively involved with World Rugby and their initiatives to bring more international matches to the United States. And certainly, I think we did a great job hosting Belgium and Spain this summer. And certainly, the conversation is already ongoing for us to host another international test in July next year. Nothing's confirmed yet, but the conversations are ongoing. But yeah, I think Charlotte as a hub, we have a lot of youth and high school players playing here, and certainly we're doing our bit to really tie more into the community. We're hosting the first Anthem Pathway Classic this February, which will be February 27th. At Matthews. Pat's done a great job setting that up. So it'll be Charlotte Cardinal versus Okapi Wanderers, high school team from Florida. And then that'll be bookmarked with Life versus Lindenwood, college big heavyweights going at it. Yeah. And that rolls straight into the Carolina Rugger Fest tournament that weekend, which is youth and high school. I think it's the second largest youth and high school rugby tournament festival in the country at the moment, which is fantastic. The fact that Charlotte has become a hub to be able to host events like that is great. And yeah, they attract teams from across the country to come in and play in that tournament. So any youth and high school coaches or team admins, if you're interested, go and check out carolinaruggerfest.org and get a team entered in there. It's a great environment. Certainly some of our players will be out there rubbing shoulders with the kids and the coaches. We'll be doing a lot of activation around that event, February 28th through March 1st.
Awesome. Something to look forward to right before the 2026 MLR season begins. Mark, really appreciate you coming on, taking your time, answering some questions about Anthem, Men's Eagles, and Charlotte. And
absolutely,
yeah, we're excited for the start of the MLR season. I'm sure there's a couple more player news announcements that'll be sprinkled out over the next few weeks across MLR and the rest of the clubs. But again, appreciate you coming on. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you very much. Great to be on.
Alrighty, that was our interview with Anthem GM Mark Carney. Really interesting stuff. I'm really looking forward to Anthem and what they do this season. So, for my co-host Bill Baker, who unfortunately cannot make it today, thanks for tuning in to US Rugby Happy Hour Live. Make sure you like, follow, comment, subscribe, and we'll catch you guys back here